So, how many of you guys did research yesterday? Well, you did some research early this morning. Aisha, did you manage to do the research? You said you didn't manage, eh? Same to you, Sinizone? Okay, sure. So, yesterday I did some introduction of what was CSS. We covered some few tags. Um, did you guys, how did you find yesterday's session, first of all?
A lot of people.
Sorry?
A lot of people.
Okay.
It's there, but it's like not as yes or HTML.
Yeah. Okay. So, don't you think it was because you were introduced to a new technology because you were working with HTML and you started getting comfortable in HTML? Then boom, CSS, and you were not writing tags anymore. You had to understand some few declaration block, the target, the rule set. So that is too much to digest at one time. That's why, I felt like, do your own research, then we speak about it, so that you can see where I'm headed. Right. So let's see what we have for today's session, guys. Okay. So we'll start with the revision of CSS introduction, the color property, the text decoration property, the font family property, margin property, the width property, text selector, grouping selectors. So this is the revision. After that, we might take a break, but I doubt that. We might. It depends on you guys. We'll also cover the background color, the background property, the div, and the span tags. Also, we'll dive in depth on the ID and class selectors. And on the last one, we'll cover the text align property. Right? Huh? Oh, shit. Okay. So, I want to send someone to read for me, but I think I can do it today. So CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets, is a fundamental technology used in web development. It's a styling language used to control the presentation and layout of HTML elements on a web page. CSS allows developers to define how HTML elements should appear in terms of design. I think this is what you have already. If you wrote down yesterday, same thing, we're just doing a revision of it. So let me just read it again. CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheet, is a fundamental technology used in web development. It's a styling language used to control the presentation and layout of HTML elements on a web page. CSS allows developers to define how HTML elements should appear in terms of design, layout, colors, fonts, and more. CSS uses a simple syntax with selectors and declaration blocks. Selectors target HTML elements, and declaration block containing the styling rules. Let me just repeat that because it is the most important line to me on the CSS uses a simple syntax with selectors and declaration blocks. Selectors target HTML elements, and declaration blocks contain the styling rules. Are we all clear on that? Yeah. So what is a selector? Selectors are used to target specific HTML elements. So we have a lot of HTML elements, but if you want to target something specifically, we use selectors. And do we still remember what selectors do we have? No, the selectors are paragraph area is a selector, but I just want you to say elements when we're speaking about the tags and stuff. Yeah. Sorry? The class and ID and attributes and elements. Classes, ID, attributes, and elements. Remember I said you can use a tag name as a target. You can also use a class that you have given the element, or an ID that you have given the element, also the attribute that are in the tag. Right? So let's just refer back to selectors. So selectors are used to target specific HTML elements. They can be simple, targeting all elements of a type, or more complex, using classes, IDs, or other attributes to select specific elements. Let me just repeat that. Selectors are used to target specific elements. They can be simple, targeting all elements of a type, or more complex, using classes, IDs, or other attributes to select a specific element. So what does it mean? Remember when I said we can use tag names, but the problem with tag names, you can have 5 or 8 tag names in different places, but in the same page. And when you're styling them, you're not interested in the same style, of course. You just wanted to style the first one if it was the first one. Maybe the second one you want it to be different, not the same style, have different fonts, have different sizes, have different background, but without being specific, you won't achieve that. Yeah.
So if you might have like 3 paragraphs that you want with different ones, would you have to create like a div for each of those ones?
No. Not like that. You can, but it depends. Remember, a div is like it's a division of a page. I think I do have the definition of a div on the session. I'm gonna show you. It is just a division of a page. Basically, you're just creating. I'm grouping these 3 to be one. You can use a div because you're dividing those to be under one. So it's like a container again. It's a parent that contains. You cannot declare a standalone div and not do nothing with it. You declare a div
If I want all 3 of that paragraphs
to be on the same, to have a different style.
to have like different styles,
Yeah.
would I create a div for each of their own properties?
Or do you class them or
Yeah.
identify them?
Okay, the best way is to class them, because if you're using a tag name, the problem I have is a tag name, because you have 3 paragraphs right on the separate divs. Let's just put it that way, right? The minute you use the paragraph tag, the P tag, the document, the CSS document is going to look for any paragraph text that is on the page, which is on the HTML page. It doesn't matter when it finds 1 or 12, it will just apply the style that is declared there, the roster that is declared on the block. It has the target, which is the paragraph tag, which is going to target all of them. Because let's just look at this. They can be simple, targeting all elements of a type, which is paragraph tag. If we have one target of paragraph tag, it may target everything that has a paragraph in it. It doesn't matter where is it wrapped around the div, is it, as long as it is in the same page. Right? So that's why it is unique to have classes and IDs. Right? So that you can.
Classes and IDs will make sure that
They
I know
are
what you want.
okay. They are custom in a way. You are naming them so that you cannot confuse what is what. You see, you can group things that belongs together and give them the same class if you want the same behavior for them or same style, right? So let's say the more we expand on this, we have this term of reusable components, right? If you have a button, create a style once and reuse it multiple times, right? When we get there, it's all about separating the logic that you need. When I said the logic, reason behind, it's because sometimes you are not interested in having different style. An example, a text. You want the text throughout the whole website to be consistent, having one font size, one font family, and also, and same line height, same spacing and deletion around it. So you would package that and just use it on all text that appears on your page. So you can use something that is going to target all, just give them the same class. Every text that you have, let's say you have this class that is called text, you can apply the same class over and over again without redoing the same style. So that style is going to reflect on all of them. So you will see as we progress, but yeah. So we did selectors. Did you understand selectors? Sure. Let me just go. So first of all, we have the element selector. An element selector targets HTML elements. Examples. The element selector, it targets the HTML elements. There we have an example whereby we're targeting a paragraph tag or H1 or a div, because They are all elements, right? Then we have a class selector, which is custom, by the way, because you give it a name by yourself. You name it yourself, right? Unfortunately, with text, we can't do that. Yeah, the more we expand, I know that there's a way of creating custom tags, but not at this level, not at this level, because we're still trying to understand what is what. Then when we fully understand the thing, we can just take advantage of using custom things. Okay, let's go back to it. So the class selector begins with a dot and selects elements by their class attribute, e.g. my class. Let's say if you have an attribute that is class and give it the name of my class, right? I'm turning example, just an example. On CSS, the way you represent that, you start with the period, then the name that you gave it, which is my class for my case, right? So whatever style that is defined in between those curly braces, wherever that class, that my class is used, it's going to reflect, because the style, the rule set, remember, is the target and the declaration block. In between the declaration block is the rule set, which is the code that is going to be applied, the style that is going to be applied on the page. Yes, I. So, are we all clear on the class selector? Do we have any questions? All right. So we have an ID selector. An ID selector begins with a hash. We have an ID selector. It begins with a hash. Have you seen a hash? Oh, yeah. An ID selector begins with a hash and selects element by their ID attribute. Example, if I had an ID and gave it a name, my ID, in order for CSS to recognize it's an ID, there has to be hash preceding that name, right? Same with classes, that has to have the dot, the period, which is then my ID, the name of the ID. So what it does, it scans the whole document to search where is the ID, my ID. When it finds it, or when it finds the list of elements that contains the ID, my ID, it's going to do whatever it is required to do, which is style it in our case, because we're speaking about CSS, right? So yeah. Okay, so we're done on this page. So are we all in the same line? And if it's done,
So, can I just say one thing?
okay.
So, the cross,
Yeah.
that is where you put a dot and like that.
Yeah. When you want CSS, in order for you to represent a class, it has to be dot.
And then, but in the actual argument that the clause equals what body container,
Yeah.
then that is like a link to when you do the CSS, then you put dot container
Okay.
over the thing which is
You are right. But let me just give you this. So on HTML, when you are writing a class, you don't have a dot. You just declare the name of it. Class attribute equals quotations, whatever name, right? But in order for CSS to understand, it must look for a class. It must have that preceding period so that it can know I am specifically looking for a class. Remember, we have a lot of selectors, including ID, tag name, and attributes. It must know that it's targeting what? A class, because there's a period preceding that target. Remember, we have target, declaration blocks, then inside the declaration blocks is the rule set, which is the code that is going to be applied on the page, the style. So when we use CSS, in order for us to target the class, we need that period preceding the name so that we can know I am looking, the document is going to scan all the classes, right? But the minute you have hash, it won't scan the classes, it will only scan the IDs because there's a hash preceding the name, which it knows it's an ID. The minute it has a hash, because it's targeting what? An ID. The target is a class. The minute it has a hash, it knows the target is a class. We cannot target tag names or elements names or attribute names. There's also another way to represent attributes, which is I think they have blocks around them. But I think I'll show you that when we cover the attribute selectors. But yeah, on CS, so no, you go. Normal, yeah. Class equals quotations, yeah. That's why in CSS you need to specify, or if it's a class, okay, I know that it tends to have a period preceding it. If it's an ID, I know that it has a hash preceding it. So that identifies that the target is what? Maybe a class or an ID, right? It has to be different, for sure. Is that clear? Good. So Aisha, Sindiswa, guys, are we all still here? So I have a question for each and one of you guys. Let's start at the back. So what is a selected thesis?
A CSS selector is okay.
Can you close the book? Because there's a reason why I'm doing this. Don't cheat, guys. Don't cheat.
Okay, I'm just going to say to my understanding.
Yeah, I want that.
The CSS selector is an HTML element. It's an HTML element. It can be a class, it can be an ID, it can be a...
So an ID is a guys. There's something that is weird. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think Cindy, so you said a CSS selector is an element, right? Okay, sure.
So C is what's it now? What is the question? Selector.
Yeah.
It's like the header part, like in the CSS part, like we put. Did you say that? We put dot clause and in the bracket things. That's the CSS. It's a selector something. I watched the videos. So it's like here we have the body, then we open those brackets thing in the CSS, and in that part with the body, that's like the selector. To link it, we must put the style and everything.
Yeah, but it isn't the body and the HTML element.
Yeah.
Because the other example was the header one, now the header one is an element. Isn't it?
Because the video that I watched this morning, I said that when you make this CSS thing, then the word that is out of the bracket is the selector. Yeah. So that to be in the bracket.
So let me just jump in there. So sorry guys. Attention. Yes. So what does the selector do? Because I think all of you guys are still finding your way around the topic. You're not there yet, but you are going to it, right? So can we just answer that as a collective ways? What do we use selectors for? To target what? The HTML element, right? So my question to you again: what is the selector in CSS?
It targets HTML element.
So how many? Yes, that's the answer. Then how many types? Can you just tell me 3 types of selectors that we got in CSS? ID, attribute, class. Simple. So can you answer the question? Can you give me the first answer that he gave me?
The CSS selectors are
Elements. That's what you said.
Round thing. There's also a border.
So selectors are not elements.
no selectors are not elements.
So your first definition? Yes, that's what I wanted. They target elements. They are not elements. Even though you can use a tag name to target what? To target an element. You can use a tag name to target an element.
Okay, so the selector, I must understand the behavior of the selector, not what it has. Like it has an HTML element, but it's not an HTML element.
A selector does not. It targets. That is a better way of understanding, because the minute you said it has, somebody is going to think that a selector is a whole HTML tag. Remember when we spoke about tags and elements, and I asked Aisha to explain to you guys what was the difference between the tag and the element. Who still remembers that definition?
An element has an opening and closing tag.
Yes, the difference between the tag and element.
You call the atoms?
Yes. Yes. So there's a reason. So a tag is not an element. Thank you. Thank you. An element is made out of what? Tags. Remember that day I spoke about atoms making components? Oh, yeah. So it is all that. So a tag is also a selector. It can be used as a selector, but there is a problem with that. If you are not planning on targeting each and every paragraph tag on the HTML document, but there is ways of mitigating that problem. But the thing is, with those issues, with those tricks, it needs us to be a bit advanced on those topics. So we'll dive more in depth as we know how to work with selectors, how to group selectors, how to use pseudo selectors. But it's something that we have not covered up until this point, which is we started with CSS yesterday, right? You still remember that? So yeah, we'll understand it by the end of this session, not today's session, the whole CSS session. So I asked you guys what was a selector, and you guys gave me an answer. Sister, hola sister. What is the CSS rule set? Okay, try.
The CSS rule set is when you make like this whole thing is a CSS rule set thing. This one is the element selector, and then in the bracket things that is the declaration.
Block.
Yeah, and then
Inside.
the inside, what was the inside the word? Like I can say the things that is like all what things. I don't know the outside or the.
Okay, can you help her because you're 80% correct there.
Yeah.
80% correct.
The inside.
I actually found out because my answers would be 80% and some when I'm selected the declaration. So, yeah, we're missing about 20% in between once you jump in.
So guys, so in CSS guys, you see the tag which is on your thing, you have the body tag, right? Body. This is called a tag. Right. It may be a tag name, it may be a class, it may be an ID, it may be an action. Right. So whatever's in the first thing in CSS is a target. Let's say we have a class. Dot target, which is the name of our class. Then after that we have what? The declaration block, which is the thing that has curly braces, right? The opening and the closing of curly braces. Boom. So in between those braces, whatever we have in there is called what? The rule set. Because you know what they call the rule set? Because let's say you wanted to change the background color. You have to use a property that is already predefined for you to change the background color. You cannot say, oh, I want to have my own custom property and just give it this and react this way, okay, this way. So it is a rule set because even those properties, which is the property background color itself, there are some values that it is expected. You cannot just say, okay, since I'm changing the background color, how about I do a non-existent color on the computer, say badge. I want page. Boom, you have page. And the minute it doesn't understand because it doesn't have it. So it is what CSS rule sets. So you need to understand they have values here. Remember I said background color was what? A property. But it has a value. The background color values, the values may differ. An example, there's a lot of colors we have. So we are not forced to use this color, the white color. No. There's a lot of colors you can use that. So the colors that I'm speaking about are not properties, they are values of what? Of properties. Right? Yeah. Are we all clear? So what is a declaration block? I just spoke about it right now. Those color braces. Okay. What are properties and values in CSS? Anyone? Just try, guys.
So the property would be like so if
The
I
thing that
change
you want to do.
the font,
Yeah.
it's basically the font is the property and the value would be 20 pixels.
Which is the actual. Okay. Did you all guys hear that? So in CSS, there's a reason why I keep asking about the properties and values because when we get to JavaScript, right, there's a section about the objects, which is same thing. It's a property. It's a key and a value, which is a property and a value. A key is also it's a property. In order for, let's say, in some language they call it a dictionary, right? Because a dictionary, same thing as a key and a value, right? If you're looking the word, you go to that word, but the meaning is the actual value. The word itself is a property. So you'll understand. Oh yeah. So I think I'm done with this one. Let's continue on this on today's. Sorry.
So could we take a break?
I can't hear you, sister.
I was asking about maybe no break.
Do you want a break?
Yes,
A break? Okay, let's do a 5 minutes break then. Okay, come back. You guys can take a walk. Yeah.
yeah, but I put it
So you're interested in making one for? So you want this to be your?
Yeah,
Look at the head. Okay. Can you go to it? Oh, okay. So you expand the table data, the table data. Can you go on the page one page? So which section will you expand? The channel.
yeah. I know it's like excluded to something.
For me, like this. Okay, let's just let me test it. What's the So, yeah.
It's not like it's a separate thing.
So, okay, I'll do it. So in CSS, sometimes you guys will see they're using pixels. Sometimes they're using REM, which stands for M, or EM, which stands for M, and also percentages sometimes. So those are all called units in CSS. We have relative units, we have fixed units, which is such as pixels. Pixels are fixed units. Right? We have percentages, which is a relative. The reason why they call it a relative because it adapts based on the inherent viewpoint. Yeah. So the pixels one, let's say this is a fixed line, fixed width, fixed height. If you were to open a page, it will just be this height because 500 pixels of this PC is not the same in the small screen. It may be just a tiny thing here because you gave it a fixed width, right, or fixed size, which is website pixels. I'll tell you when you get to units so that you can understand why sometimes we try to move away from using fixed length sizes. Right. But for now, you can use them and play with them and see the difference, if you can spot the difference, and also play with the sizing. There's also, but there is a session specific for that in this CSS session that we have. So I'll cover that in a moment. Just pause. Back. So is it? Try dot slash and see what it shows you.
No.
dot slash. What does it show you? Nothing. Are you all done on your website? We're about to continue. Okay. So as I was referring to this video, who still remembers about the embedding? Yeah.
Here we go, sir.
Did it work?
I just fixed the CSS stuff that's helping me. It is like that.
Nice. Let's just exit here because it's not doing what I wanted it to do. So going back on the session, guys. Yeah. Now we took about 15 minutes break. Now we're back. We are back. So we have about 4 slides left until we finish today's session, right? Yeah. So let's see what we have. So as you can see the head there, it's returns CSS properties and values, right? So let me just start on the background color and explain what is a background color property. So the background color property, this is a CSS property used to set the background color of an HTML element. It can be applied to element using specific color value or transparent value. The background color is a CSS property used to set the background color of an HTML element. It can be applied to elements using a specific color value or a transparent value. The property name is background color. Then we have the background property, just background. The CSS property, the background CSS property is a shorthand property for setting various background properties of an element in a single declaration. So remember when we spoke about margin being the shorthand for margin bottom, margin top, margin left, margin right. There are a lot of CSS properties that are shorthand, such as if you saw the first property we covered was background color. Now we are speaking about a background, which is just background, that property background.
So the background would be everything that you can change
In the background, right, including the background color, because it's coming from there. So the CSS property background is a shorthand property for setting various background properties of an element in a single declaration. It includes background color, which is the first property we already discussed, background image, background repeat, background position, and background size. So I'm not sure if you guys mind on pulling up MDN. Just type out background. So I'll be reading in the meantime, right? So we have another property which is can you just let me wait for you. Are you already on the MDN? Are you already on the background? Can you one of you guys read what you see for me?
The background shorthand is CSS properties with background style properties at once, such as color, image, origin, and size for repeat method. Component drop is not set in the background shorthand property value. Declaration set to the default values.
Okay. And on examples, can you see? So I want you guys. I want all of you guys. Can you just since you did background, just add dash color, background color, background color. So yeah. No, you can just search the background color. Can you see what we're looking for?
Oh, that's a good idea of mine. I'm like the ultimate background color, the ultimate green.
Okay. So guys, do you all understand what the background color does? So when you get home, I'm going to ask you guys to do some things, like some research on the background element, which is, since I've said to you it is a shorthand, you already understand one, you already used one, which is background color. So mind if you guys just look on the background image and also on the background repeat and background position and background size.
Can you use that for like an activity for the
Yeah,
channel?
yeah, just use background, the background shorthand. Yeah, use the background shorthand and expand in full expand, like expand each and every shorthand that is in there, which is the color, the image, the position, the repeat, and you'll see it's it's really like a weird tag, and it's also good because the position and also the repeat, they are all for the background image, right? So we have another property which is text align. This CSS property is used to set the horizontal alignment of text content within an HTML element. It can be aligned left, right, center, or justified. Text align. This CSS property is used to set the horizontal alignment of a text content within an HTML element. It can be aligned left, right, center, or justified. So, guys, last time we spoke, which direction do we find the horizontal line? Starting from top to bottom or left to right? Yes. So this text align aligns on the horizontal line, whether let's say it may align to the left or on the right or on the center. Right? It just aligns it. That like horizontal. It doesn't go vertical.
For the text to be no matter of the page.
Then use center. Yes. Okay. On where, notice on where there is this text align, but I think it shows on top on the alignment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you notice the alignment on where? The alignment.
Mm.
Let's say you want to put something in the center, you won't use the space just to space it out. You can just align it to the center. So this is that. The reason why I keep on referring to where, because all of those things that are on where, remember, to us, CSS, making the text bold, making the text italic, changing text color, changing fonts, it's all CSS to us, guys. You understand?
Yeah.
Yes. So, let's just forget about CSS for a minute, because right now we are stepping to big boys. We have two tags there, which are div and span. These elements are HTML elements used to define sections or division within a web page. A div tag is a block level container that contains other elements, while span is an inline container often used for styling a specific portion of a text within a block level element. Let me just explain what is meant by block and inline, right? So what I noticed, if you were to declare, let's say, 5 divs, the way they are laid out on HTML, when you are just declaring them on HTML, let's say you have text right around those divs. So what would it create? It would create the first div layout from horizontal, which is from left to right. Right. That is a block level. A block level is an element that takes the full width of the line, right? Which is starting from left to right. It doesn't matter what it ends here. Nothing is going to be laid out on this side unless it is in line. So in inline element, it doesn't break to a new line with a block. It breaks to the new line. If you declare another div when there is another one, it's going to show on below the one that you declared. But with inline, with span, it doesn't do that with span. It just put them in line. Right.
So with span, it will be basically next to each other and with them in a way.
Yes. That's why it's called, the div is called a block, and the span is called inline. because they're in the same line, right? The block is on its own block. Just picture this as a grid, right? Each and everything has its own block. That is a block level, a block. What is it? Yeah, a block level container, right? Square and inline container, because it is also a container, but it contains things that are in line. So, when we... Okay. Finish what? No, actually was repeating after me, right? Yeah. So, when you can make it in line, right? Using CSS, I know we're going to cover the property, but let me just give you just something here. On CSS, right, we have a property that is called display. The property display has values, various values. One being block, and two being inline, and third one being inline block. The first one we have inline, which is the property display. It is used for controlling how our elements are laid out visually, right? So remember when I said the div, the minute you have two divs, the one that comes first is going to be laid out here on the first block. The second one after that. But if you're using the span, they are all going to lay out in line, which is starting from left but to right. Right? So, what I was saying? Can you remind me of this time? What I was saying?
The div and the span is in line.
In line. Oh, okay, remember. So I said there was a display property that has values such as block, inline, and inline block. So block, it behaves such as like a div, right? Because it is a block, which is it contains the full width of the page, right? And inline, it behaves like a span, which is it lays out content in line, right? Then there's inline block. So between inline and block, there's a huge difference, and I think I'm going to explain some things to you guys. So on the block element, you can define dimensions, which is your height and width. When I speak about dimension, I'm speaking about the height and the width, which is from right. On the inline, you cannot add dimensions. It's inline, right? But with the inline block, you can add dimensions. At the same time, you get the
So to be in alignment, there's a properties of
dimensions. You can add dimensions, which is you can set the height to be bigger, and also while they're laying out the horizontal, you can control the sizes. Like if you know that the navigation that you use on the website, there are buttons, right? They're not buttons. You just raise the height and the width, so they can appear as buttons. So those are in line blocks or blocks. Straight in line, you can't manipulate the dimensions. Right? This is not just, you'll understand this is more as we move forward with this. Right? So, yeah. So, as I was saying, div and span tags, these HTML elements are used to define sections or division within a web page. A div tag is a block level container, which is it starts from left to right, it finishes like it takes up the whole width of the entire page or of the viewport. The viewport is basically what we see on the page, right? Yes, I. While span is an inline container often used for styling a specific portion of a text within a block level element. Let's say you had a div that was wrapping a paragraph, right? But you were interested in highlighting a certain part on the text, right? Or a certain sentence in the text. You would use a span so that it is inline but still usable, right? Just to, let's say if you wanted to highlight a specific sentence, you would use a span to catch that and wrap it around the span tag. You understand? Then we have an ID and a class selector. I think we already spoke about them, but I think I need to just remind you so that you guys can remember, because without these, we are nothing in CSS. The ID and class selectors. These are CSS selectors used to style HTML elements. ID selectors are denoted by a hash, followed by a unique identifier, which is the class, the name that you have given your ID, because it's custom, right? You can just name it whatever you want. My ID, my class, right? But they are telling us that an ID selectors are denoted by a hash, which we can see there, followed by a unique identifier. And the class selectors are denoted by a dot, which is also the same as a period, followed by a class name. Right. Is there anything that is unclear that you want me to just go over? Are you sure? 100%? Okay. For sure. Let's do this one. Yeah. As I've said to you guys, there isn't a lot to cover for today. Since I'm going with the course module, we have to chunk the information so that it's not a lot of information. We don't want to destroy your brains, guys. So, if we take a look at the first example, we have a div there. And inside that div, we nested a span, right? And after the span, we have a paragraph tag, a paragraph element that is holding the text. This is a paragraph inside a div, right? But if we take a look at the div, the attributes of a div, the div has two attributes. The first one being the ID container, right? Then we have a class. You can do that, by the way. You can have an ID and a class. Maybe for an ID, sorry?
No, I'm saying you can have an ID and a class in one div.
In one div. Remember I said a class and a div, they like a class is highly recommended if you want to just name your element, right? So that you can type it specifically. But the div is not just used for that. It is a selector, right? But it is used for a lot of things like linking pages or templates. And it's not externally, something that is within your HTML, right? Let's say if you wanted to link the footer, you would declare an ID footer. Whenever somebody presses an anchor tag that has an href, which is hash, which is the ID footer, it will go straight on the footer. So that's why sometimes you would see a lot like you see the first example having an ID and a container. Sorry, an ID and a class. So they will use it a class for styling purposes and use an ID for linking purposes. Remember the use map, the maps, and on the image that you are going to link, there's an attribute use map that equals hash, which is an ID. Anything that is denoted by hash, it is an ID. We cannot do that with a class or a tag name. It is only an ID that is capable of doing such. So that's why I said that there's a different use cases for both, right? And yeah, that is it. So the second one, if you guys you see, we have hash container, right? Which is a class. Sorry, an ID, right? So when you write it on HTML, it doesn't have the hash. Look at this. It is an ID, but when you use it on CSS, it has to be denoted by a hash. This hash is telling CSS to go for IDs, right? And the ID container, right? It won't go for classes. Just because there's something that will search the whole document going for IDs, right? Same thing with just forget about this one here. Same thing about this class example. When you are targeting a class on CSS, it has to be denoted by what? By dot. So when you are writing here, you don't have to. You are not writing dot example. You are just writing example, right? Same thing with the span. The class is highlight. You are not writing dot highlight. But when you want to target this on CSS, you have to denote it by dot to specify this is a class, right? So that is what I was telling you. Look at this. boom, 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 boom. Like a class is denoted by a period, an ID is denoted by a hash. That is what I wanted to show you. So, we have another example which is on the background property. This property is a shorthand property for setting various background properties of an element in a single declaration. It includes background color, image, background repeat, background position, and background size. Interesting. Can you take a look at here? On this example, we have background properties. But look, what values do we have? How many values do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the same thing. We can do this in margin. Let's say declare margin and write 50 pixels and write 20 pixels. We can write 4 actually. 4 for all of them, which is the first one being margin bottom, the second one being margin left, the third one being margin bottom, it was margin top, sorry, the first. Then the last one being margin right. Right? We can do that. Yeah, we can do that. So here, this stands for the color. Right. I think you have seen this already when we're doing the color, the hash symbol. I think I might have to tomorrow to include this so that you guys know what is hex codes. Right. So this is a color, this is an image. Remember, it is a shorthand for background color, which is this. Background image, which is this. You see, if you see it, there is URL. URL, by the way, is the same as it behaves the same as href and source, because here you specify the file name if it's within the same thing. Yeah, but if you're using a folder, it's within a folder, you would have to specify the full path. So it does that.
So in that case, to use that one that you said.
Yeah, you can even use that. So it behaves the same as href and source, because it just looks to that and then behind the scenes it fires a request to get that information in the file. Just put it in. Same thing that is done by href and source. Yeah. I'm not including source set because source set it also adds dimensions, which is width and height. So the third value being no repeat. Okay, background repeat. Right? And the last one being background position, which is center. They didn't declare size, but you can also specify the size. Right? So, from the last example on this page, we have ID and class selector. These are CSS selectors used to style HTML elements. ID selectors are denoted by a hash, we already spoke about that, followed by a unique identifier, and the class selectors are denoted by a dot, followed by a class name, which is we already spoke about that too. As it is showing us here, this is an ID, a class, and a class. Right. So let's go to another example. I think this is the last. Oh, we still have 8 more slides to go through. 8. Yeah. So let's speak about the span. The span HTML element is a generic inline container for phrasing content, which does not inherently represent anything. It can be used to group elements for styling purposes, using the class or ID attribute, or because they share attribute values such as length. It should be only used when no other semantic element is appropriate. Span is very much like a div, but div is a block level, whereas span is an inline level element. So do you understand that? Div being a block, span being a line. You already know what is a block, you already know what is a line. So the div / the content division element. The div HTML element is the generic container for flow content. It has no effect on the content or layout until styled in some way using CSS. Examples: styling is directly applied to it. Some kind of a layout model like Flexbox is applied to its parent element. Remember I said to you, when we reach that level of understanding, we'll dive in depth on why do we have What is the advantage of having containers and children and nesting that inside? Right? So let's go to classes.
What's the span?
Yeah.
Sorry, I think. Like the way it says it should only be used when no other semantic element is approaching. That's the
Okay, sure. Okay. So this is a paragraph, right? What take do we have to represent a paragraph in HTML? The future. Let's say yes. I think we use this span here. You see this? These are highlighted in a way. In order for one to achieve this, use a span because it's in line. It won't break anything. It won't take it to another line. It will just be here. If I were to have this around the span, then have a class, like an align text, then that I would use this to style this, which is underlined, use the text decoration, which is underlined, and change the color to be whatever color, blue or green, whatever color that it is, so that I can just style this portion of the text, not the whole thing. That's why they said it is.
so it's going to use like this P on change the things. So in order to understand. So P on change any background or whatever. So
You can.
want to
You can with P. Also, every element has global attributes. Right. Style is a global attribute, which is any element on the page has that attribute. Even the body tag itself has that style attribute. That is what they call. That is the main reason why they call it global, because every element in the HTML specification has that style attribute. Right. So, what do you say? Oh yeah, I was just explaining that a style is a global attribute, which is every element within that. So the span, when you want to start a portion of something that is in line, let's say you don't want to break anything, you just want to start that thing specifically, like a text, maybe just 3 characters of the text, you can wrap it around the span tag, because it won't break it, it will just grab whatever you want to grab, right? I agree. So the class global attribute is a space-separated list of case-sensitive classes of the element. The class global attribute is a space-separated list of the case-sensitive classes of the element. Classes allow CSS and JavaScript to select and access specific elements via class selectors or functions like DOM method, which is document.getElements by class name. Do you understand that? I know the last part is really weird. The last part, okay. The last part, you won't understand it because we haven't started with JavaScript. So the minute we start with JavaScript, I'll teach you basics. Then after basics, we'll start with what they call a DOM, which is a document object model. A document object model, basically, it is working with those HTML elements on JavaScript. So the DOM is it is how we interface or how we work with HTML elements in JavaScript.
So it's basically like the style sheet of JavaScript.
Yeah. Remember, CSS is a style sheet, right? JavaScript is the behavior. If we want to extract data out of our system, let's say we have inputs, we use attributes for that to extract data out of that. But using what? JavaScript, because we cannot access them using any tools that we encounter for, which is CSS or HTML. We have to use JavaScript specifically, JavaScript only. So that's why I won't tell you much about the DOM because we haven't come into just blow my head. So an ID global attribute defines an identifier ID which must be unique in the whole document. Its purpose is to identify the element when linking using a fragment identifier, scripting or styling with CSS. So can you see that there is a difference between a class and even on the definition itself, it tells you otherwise, because it even shows Let me read that again. That the ID global attribute defines an identifier which must be unique in the whole document. Its purpose is to identify the element when linking using a fragment identifier, scripting or styling with CSS, which is the ID. You can use it on JavaScript, you can use it on CSS for styling purposes, or you can use it on HTML by linking fragment, which is pieces of the website, right? So yeah, let's see.
So both class and fragment have the same name, but the ID each name is unique.
It must be unique because remember I said, let's say if you, yeah, it has to be unique because come on, we use it for linking pieces of our HTML template, right? Just imagine if you had classes, IDs and all over the place. The minute you link that, it would behave very like. I'm gonna try that tomorrow actually and have a lot of same IDs and try to link one and see
It doesn't
what element will I get.
You will get the first
The first one, that's my, yes, it was the first one.
Because I did that when I made the name was, I just copied everything off
Oh.
each other. So then it just went to the first.
The first one. It makes sense, it makes sense. So that's why it has to be unique because it is an identifier, right? A class, then you can just in a class, like you're free to move wherever you want to move. So are we all on the same page? Okay. We still have 10 slides. Actually, I was playing, guys. This is the last slide.
Oh, that's fine.
We did that already, sir.
Yeah, like the last part, I'm just asking you guys to code, and code. Yesterday I gave you this CSS declaration, CSS rule set, internal versus external. Please do thorough research on that, right? Please, guys, just do some thorough research on that so that we can be on the same shoes. So I'm going to ask you guys to research some extra text for me that will come tomorrow. So I won't show you, but I'm going to just read them out. I hope you guys are writing in the meantime. Huh? Okay, sure. I'll wait for you. What is? So guys, how are you finding today's session? Alright. So are you better Okay, are you better mentally? Okay. Remember, when you have something on your mind, you feel like, I can't do it. Speak to me. Remember, I'm not just your mentor, your consultant. I'm everything, Yabo. I can try to just to guide you and show you the things that I went through when I started learning this, because I also faced the same problems as you guys, which is sometimes I would find myself not even understanding one thing. I feel like, hey, maybe I'm stupid, But it's not that case. It's just that you are learning. You need to understand that it is a process. It can't just happen overnight, right? Let's see. Yeah, the signal is really killing us.